Welcome everyone to the Life Planning Network, our national meeting of February, a day on which there are record snowfalls, at least in Portland, Oregon, and Minnesota, and maybe eastward. I'm Bruce Frankel, the president of Life Planning Network in Sharon, Massachusetts, where the snow is gratefully light. We're excited to have our main speaker today, Susan Shifrin of Arts Philadelphia, which is a 10-year-old program in Philadelphia that she founded, and it's a paradigm-shifting program that helps to bring joy to those living with dementia as well as their caregivers, and is helping to train new medical professionals and others in kind of retrain them in the ways of dealing with people with living with dementia. So without saying too much more, just to say that she is an art historian. She said was, I'm going to say is an art historian. She got her PhD at Bryn Mawr College. She worked at the Museum of Art at Ursinus College before she began, or when she actually began the program at Arts. So we had a wonderful conversation the other day in preparation for today, and I think you're all going to be greatly enjoy this. So welcome, Susan. Thank you for joining us today and sharing with us.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm delighted to be here.
Great. So maybe we could start with you telling us a little about how a former art historian, current art historian, former curator of an art museum ended up starting this program, and then maybe you'll give a little introduction to video we'll run.
Sure. I'm going to try to make this fairly long, meandering story short. It all boils down to two things. One, a very persistent, wonderful social worker, and two, a desire on my part and my students' part at Ursinus College's Berman Museum of Art to very intentionally, purposefully start serving community members who had been inadvertently left out. So the social worker, the more important part of this story, a social worker from a local residential care community came to see me one day. I was the director of education at the museum, and essentially pleaded with me to consider developing a program for her residents living with dementia. She and her colleagues had been bringing others from the community to the museum for years. They loved it, but she emphasized that our residents with dementia have nothing. Is there nothing you can do to change that? And so over the next couple of years, she and I worked together to change that. And we started the precursor to Arts Philadelphia at the Berman Museum in around 2010, 2011. And what I saw in the galleries was people coming in with the kinds of demeanors and affects that you would associate with people living with dementia. And they would leave laughing, smiling, teasing each other, having talked about parts of their lives that even their closest aides had known nothing about. And so when, in his infinite wisdom, the new director of the museum decided that a college museum did not need an educator on staff, and I was in my mid-50s, I made the decision to found what became Arts Philadelphia. And so that is how this art historian, curator, educator became the director of a nonprofit. And I will just say, as I said to Bruce, there's not a lot of difference in helping people living with dementia and their care partners to feel comfortable and safe and creative and imaginative in a museum space. Not much different from helping college students or their parents or staff to feel comfortable in a museum space. And so I see it as a kind of continuum.
Great. Let's maybe give a little taste of arts before we go on. So if you could kind of set this up, I'm going to start it in middle. I'm not going to go to the very beginning. So if you just give a little setup for it.
Absolutely. This is a video of a program that is typical for us. It's called Arts at the Museum. It's an hour-long conversation with people living with dementia and their care partners in a museum gallery about one or two works of art. And you will see in this video people with dementia speaking and people without dementia speaking. I think that's probably all that's needed.
That's great.
Jack just said somebody is trying to keep that alive.
The top part is still smooth, colorful in its own way, but the legs are not holding it up in the past. But it's still here. Somebody supported it.
Somebody supported it. What else?
I was just looking at the difference between the legs are different, and that's about as far as I've gotten. Yeah, I did see that it had been patched and things like that, and maybe somebody trying to keep it going, you know. It was looking more at the balance, and again, trying to figure out maybe why the artist wants us to look at this. When you look at this, what do you see right here? What do you see? I see a surface. A very electric kind of surface.
She said electric. If you didn't.
I'm not quite sure how
So Eve said she sees a surface, a kind of electric surface. She's not sure how she would do it. In a way, Jack spoke about the piece as a whole. Peggy spoke especially about the legs and what she had noticed about the legs. And Eve spoke about the surface. Sarah, what do you see in this piece? Pyramid. Sarah's wondering, she said she sees a little bit of a scraggly piece of wood, and she's wondering if there might have been termites at some point chewing on the wood. What would it say to you? There had been termites.
Well, I guess that it survived despite the challenge.
Yeah, it's just, if you put it into a personal type of thing, it's just like, so long for a while until we meet again. Going, gone. But in the memory, it's the smoothness that keeps somebody alive. You're looking at the loss, but you're pulling in what was good what was best, what was whole.
I found this table in the
Oh.
street
I'm just-
and I needed a table to work myself, but I didn't have many materials. I didn't know how to use the tools. And I didn't have the language either. But just working on it, because it was in a really bad shape and I was trying to work on it. I started finding myself more in this kind of shape and trying to balance it. I discovered that the table was more, like it was meant to be like this.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. You guys said beautiful things.
So I've found that beautiful and touching and remarkable. Maybe you could talk a little about that day and how that fits in with what you experience all the time when you're doing these programs.
Absolutely. So the first thing I will say is that Eve passed away within a number of months from that day. Jack died from COVID. Both of them were living with dementia. And I think one of the things that we experience is Jack's deep connection with what he sees and his using the opportunity to think about what he's seeing and talk about it as a way to talk about himself and what he's experiencing. Really quick story about Jack. One might think that he had a long history with looking at art. And in fact, at the very first program that we ever did, Jack and Peggy were there, and Jack essentially announced to everyone that he didn't like going to museums, and he would have to be bribed by Peggy to go to museums with a stop at a pub but that as he, through arts and through his involvement with arts, as he began to listen to his own responses, he realized that it had a lot of meaning for him. And I think in answer to your question, Bruce, that's what we see is the combination of looking outward, not looking inward so much, certainly not looking inward at what one can no longer do, but looking outward with other people and seeing what is possible to see and being provided with a space in which to say whatever comes to mind without any fear of recrimination. And then to experience the give and take with others in the group. That's what we see in our programs, whether they're based on music, whether they're based on looking at art, whether they're conversation based or art making based. That's the great privilege that those of us who facilitate have.
Fantastic. Just in terms of what are the goals for when people come into the program? What are your goals for the people? Let's stay there for the second. Let me stay.
Our goals are very simple and very lofty. We want people to leave feeling more content, more joyful, more in touch with themselves than they were when they walked in. It's that simple. We are not art therapists. The art we look at together serves as a vehicle for community building and for conversation. We sometimes veer completely in a different direction from the art. And that's just fine as long as people leave feeling better.
Right. And what about the relationship? You told me a story about when you began this, you thought you needed to instruct the caregivers. So maybe you can retell that.
Absolutely. This has been a 10-year exercise in recurring humility. So when I started arts, having been given a certain amount of training, I had two things in mind. One is that I'm probably going to have to respectfully request that care partners give the floor to their partners, because that's what this is for. The other thing that I assumed was that I would have to somehow figure out how to separate people in late stage dementia from people in early stage dementia, because my sense was it would be discouraging and depressing for those in early stage. I was as wrong can be on both counts. And I learned almost from the first program that what happened when care partners heard the kind of profound insights that you just witnessed from Jack, there was, I could almost feel them taking in their breath as though they hadn't seen this person in so long. And now they could have a real conversation. And that's exactly what happened, is they started having conversations about art and about each other. And what I realized was, okay, stupid, that's what this is about. It's about the conversations. Don't interfere with perfection. And really, I believe that our facilitators' roles are to create the space in which people can run with whatever happens. And it's the groups of people with dementia and care partners that really make this program what it is. They feed off of each other, they stimulate each other, they come to love each other.
Fantastic. Where do people come to you from? How do they find you? And how do you seek them?
We have been fortunate in that from the very beginning, we received referrals from Penn Memory Center, which those of you who are local will know about, but it is one of the NIH's affiliated Alzheimer's disease research centers at University of Pennsylvania. And their head of social work at the time came and observed one of our programs and then started referring people to us. We have an ongoing relationship with Thomas Jefferson University, which is another medical center in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. Some of the docs there have been referring patients to us. But by and large, it is word of mouth. It's care partners who have witnessed what the program does for them, telling other care partners about it. As I mentioned to you, Bruce, marketing for participation in programs like these, it's not marketing, because we're starting at a supreme disadvantage, which is that many people at the start of their illnesses have experienced what it feels like to be ostracized or treated with disrespect or demeaned when they go into public. And so the tendency is, well, I'm not doing that again, both care partners and people with dementia. And so our marketing has to be about our humanity and about who we are as individuals and how we will interact with people who come to our programs. And so it's one of our great challenges to keep recruiting people. That's one of the challenges.
Interesting. Maybe you could talk a little about the work that Arts is doing with the medical community, where and how and what.
I would be delighted. So I joke that as the founder and executive director of Arts, I am not supposed to have favorites among our programs. It's just not done. Well, it actually is done. The program of which I'm most proud and which I actually think will, I hope, make the most difference in the world is a program sort of called Arts at Jefferson, which basically tells you nothing. What it is, though, is a mentoring program that we designed in which people living with dementia and their care partners serve as mentors for health profession students, whether they're medical students, nursing students, OT, PT, you get it. And the program lasts approximately 2 months. And it is a sort of arc of group gatherings. We start in a big group looking at art together, and mentors don't know who their students are and students don't know who their mentors are. So it's just, we're all just sitting there on a level playing field. And then over time, mentors and students start meeting one-on-one or 2-by-2 sometimes. And I and my former colleague facilitate and also hold breakouts with the students to help contextualize what they're experiencing, to get them to reflect on their own experiences, to get them to understand more about the subtlety of their own reactions to their mentor's stories. And ultimately, we have a 3-hour seminar in which we talk about, this word that is bandied about so much, empathy. What does that actually mean in practice, particularly in the healthcare professions? The goal is twofold. First, to put the people who really know about what it means to live with dementia in a position of relaying that. And it's not doctors who know what it is like to live with dementia unless they have dementia. All of our programs are about agency. The other part of it is to help students early enough in their careers to make a difference, we hope, to think about their patients as first and foremost human beings. We've been doing this for a little over 7 years. About 220 or 30 students have gone through the program. And a number, particularly of medical students, have changed their tracks in their professional trajectories to geriatric neurology, to fields in which what they have learned from their mentors will be directly applicable, because most of the students say it has changed their lives.
If you would mind repeating the study done at Jefferson about empathy and the course of empathy over the medical career, I think that would be germane.
Absolutely. So for 30 years, I think, Nancy can probably correct me, but Jefferson has been one of the centers of medical education that has examined the empathy of its medical students. And these studies have now gone around the world. So it's not just Jefferson students who are at play here. By the third year, all of the data point to students who came in with empathy having had it essentially beaten out of them. And I can tell you that we've had third-year medical students who, have no time, who have signed up to participate in our program specifically because they have felt that they no longer know why they are there, and that they've become so divorced from that human instinct that led them there that they need to connect with real human beings.
Oh, fantastic. I want to save time for our members to ask some questions, but I want to ask you last two questions. How do you get funding? Where do you get money to keep the program going? Do people pay to participate in the program? And then lastly, how can LPN be of help to Arts Philadelphia?
We do not charge any of our participants to participate in our programs. My perspective from day one was, I should have said, my mother lived with dementia for 20 years. So I knew firsthand all of the hurdles involved in this life. And I did not want to be responsible for adding another hurdle, an economic one. So we don't charge for any of our programs. We do get funding from the venues where we provide programs. So the museums who partner with us pay us as subcontractors, essentially, to do these programs in their galleries. When we were still in day centers and long-term care communities before COVID, I will say we had a substantially sliding scale, but they would also pay for our services. And then it's grants and other fee-for-service programs, and above all, individual donations. Generally speaking, individual donations are 40 to 50% of what funds us. And a good chunk of those come from people who have experienced the programs. I talked about the challenge of bringing new people to our programs, or not even bringing new people, but making it possible for people to at least know that our programs exist, and then making their own decisions about whether to try them out or not. And, I think that all of you could help just by letting people know know about what we do. I will also say that since COVID, a large percentage of our programs have been online. And therefore, those of you who are in Scotland or elsewhere in the world, not in the United States, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We will always be Philadelphia-centric in reaching out to Philadelphia communities. But one of the few gifts of COVID is that we're now able to reach people that we could never have reached before.
Just before I open up the mic and let people ask, I just can't help but ask, did you get a chance to say goodbye to Jack before he died of COVID?
I didn't. I became very close with his wife, and she had years of not seeing him, and finally got to see him as he was dying. I feel as though I got to say goodbye in some way to Eve, because she was a mentor in Arts at Jefferson until a month before she died. But no, and that's one of the tough things about doing this work, as you all know.
Yeah, I bet. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this. I know our members are going to have great questions. If you will just give the signal and raise your hand up, I'll call on you. You can open your, Meg has her hand up. So Meg, unmute yourself and ask away.
This was so moving, and I loved Susan, and I love the way your life path just sort of naturally suited, took you to the place you're meant to be. I have a couple of specific questions, and they're particular in a way. How I'd like to know how. I have a friend who's really pretty demented out in Seattle. How can I tell her and get her? My brother, actually, I don't know. The other part, another part of it is I heard a quick mention of music, and I happen to be a musician, so I'm just curious about that. Not professional, but avocational.
Well, close enough.
Absolutely. I am equally avocational, Meg. So in fact, I'm kind of avocational about all of this too, but that's a whole other story. So really, to attend our online programs, one can, if your friend who is advanced in the illness has someone who can help her to register for the programs, it's all on our website, one-stop shopping.
Okay, and you said that, I never wrote it down. artsphiladelphia.org? No.
It's Bruce, maybe you could,
I'll put it in.
or I can put it in the chat.
Well, that's good.
It's artsphilly.org.
Oh, Philly. Okay.
And Meg, there's also a YouTube video in the chat that I put in there, and I'll save the video and send it out.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. But what's the music one like? Just
another thing that COVID allowed us to do that I had been wanting to do for quite a long time. I come from a family of musicians, and so I always wanted for music to be one of the arts that we utilized. During COVID, that happened. So we have a monthly program called Arts Notes that takes place on Saturday afternoons, East Coast time. And it is, the program is led by an extraordinary Philadelphia musician and music educator who works with little kids, but was born, I'm convinced, to do this work. And she creates a lineup of really gifted musician facilitators, different one each month. And they go through a training with us. Some of them have connections, personal connections with life with dementia. Some of them don't at all. But so 10 months out of the year, we have that monthly program. We also started, one thing I haven't talked about at all, but which you can see on our website, is the neighborhood programs that we've been working on for the last 5 years. And we have a program called Music in the Neighborhood, which is a series of concerts that take place generally in person, sometimes online, in 2 neighborhoods in North Philadelphia where we've been working. And we try to use the incredible gifts and cultural richness of those neighborhoods to find the musicians. So those are 2 of our music programs.
thank you. Thank you so much for this work. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm going to call on Jan next, but before I do, I meant to ask you the other day, Susan's father is or was a composer. What's his name, or is his name?
My father sadly died at the age of 53 when I was 18. David Seymour Shifrin. You probably know the name Lalo Shifrin, some of you. Not related.
Oh,
But I put my father's name in the chat.
thank you.
Lovely.
Thanks for
Thank
asking.
you. Jan, if you would.
Yeah, I've got a question and then a comment or observation. Question is, to what extent Do the people who have dementia who are coming to your programs, to what extent are they living at home versus in a community?
So prior to COVID, our museum programs were populated mostly by people still living in their own homes, although we had partnerships with about 12 long-term care communities, and some of them would go on field trips to bring
Mhm.
their residents to the museums. We had and will have again a whole body of programs that we brought to care communities, especially to memory care units where going out might be a little fraught.
Mhm. Yeah. 'Cause-
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem to me that, I mean, this would be extraordinary particularly for people who are being cared for in their own home, who are, get more and more isolated and have less and less interactions. What a, wonderful way to be connected. So thank you. This is great work. And my observation, or what I want to share, I'm like kind of welling up with this. I lost my mother about a year or so ago to dementia at 93, and she aged in place at home. And my mom was a professor at Temple University for over 35 years. She was a teacher of teachers. She taught teachers how to teach. And she did a lot of humanistic education in the foreign language classroom and teacher-student behaviors. And in her latter years of her career, and what her plan was through her retirement years, was to apply the same kind of interaction system to the medical profession, to students. And actually, I as the executrix of her estate, I have a lot of her materials of her work in the medical community, as far as she was able to take it. And I'm feeling that my mother would be thrilled to hear the impact that you're having with medical students and people who've lost, their way, or, got, burned out, and, and that it's such an intense experience that, I just think this is wonderful. And and again, if you see other, applications where I could provide some of the materials that I have, I'd be happy to do that.
I will admit to you that one of my greatest aspirations is to see some form of what we're doing at Jefferson, and we've actually done it in several other medical centers in Philadelphia, start to happen across the country. And I don't think that we have cornered the market on this. And I am constantly learning. So if you would be willing, I would love to learn from your mom.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. And I'm in Philadelphia also. She was at Temple University for all that time. Yes. So we can connect. And I know Nancy very well as well. So we could connect. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Sharon, you're next.
First question is easy peasy. And then I have a second question. I have a very dear friend, Sue Shifrin Cassidy. Are you related to her at all?
No, but I know of her. I know.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, that's one. That was easy, right?
That was. Uh-oh, here comes something tougher. I can sense it.
Well, actually, it's an open-ended question. I have a lot of background in the music industry with the Grammys and with entertainment, so on and so forth. And so, and also with intergenerational. And there are museums, I think it's MoMA in New York, or one of them, that does a lot of art with the older generation coming in, older adults, and there's an endless supply. Are you connected with other medical schools, hospitals, music programs, art programs, so that you're one of a consortium rather than a standalone?
Interesting that you brought up the MoMA program. MoMA started a program called Meet Me at the Museum and Make Memories.
Yes.
That actually, you won't see this on their website, but that program was developed by the organization with which I trained. And they had a rather politically fraught parting of the ways. But that is, yes. So
That organization was in Boston, correct?
it was called Artists for Alzheimer's, acronym ARTS. And the MoMA program and many other similar programs tend to focus on people in early stage dementia. And one of the things that I was determined we would not do is discard people, frankly. Not a very nice way to put it, but that's what it feels like. Discard people when they reached a point at which they couldn't speak anymore. There's so much they still have to say. It doesn't have to be in words. In the Philadelphia area, I helped the Michener Museum to start their own in-house program very early in the existence of our organization. And we're now having conversations with a group in Nevada about bringing our Arts at Jefferson model potentially to Nevada.
Excuse me, which one? Because we lived in Nevada for quite some time.
Yeah, well, potentially, there's half the group is from Reno and half the group is from Las Vegas. I don't know yet, but Cleveland Clinic is involved in the conversation.
Of course, brain, yeah.
And the university, and Dementia Friendly Nevada.
Yeah, good for you.
The short version of this is we do everything by virtue of partnership. And if we can partner with folks in Utah, we will partner with folks in Utah. If we can partner with folks in Nova Scotia, we'll partner with folks in Nova Scotia. The model of how we do things is all about expanding resources as opposed to trying to protect them. That's not our goal.
Your purpose for LPN, perfect. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Joan, you want to?
Thank you. Do any of your programs involve movement or dance?
I'm so glad you asked that, Joan. It happens that Bruce and I discovered that we have a friend in common in the Boston area whose name is Donna Newman Bluestein. She is a dance therapist. And during COVID, we did a movement program for care partners for us. I should say it, Nancy can confirm this. We are a very small organization. We have 3 full-time staff and a small cadre of contractors. And so one of the things that I've wrestled with over the years is how to reach more people, but never get to the point where we're over-promising and overextending ourselves so that we drop balls and therefore let people down. Right now, in our online programs, we could start doing more movement. It's, in the end, it's all about financial resources. If we had sufficient resources, we would be working with horticultural therapists, which we actually are online. We would be working with dance. We would be working with any and every art that might be of solace and of stimulation to our participants.
Connie, if you would Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm fascinated with the way you've gone online. And what I'm wondering is, it's hard enough with people who don't have dementia to get people to participate online. What techniques do you use?
You are so right. And we are, interestingly, we and a number of our museum colleagues are currently experiencing this sort of in-between condition where people, of course, are tired of not being in person with each other. And I just had to cancel in-person programs because of another COVID outbreak. So people are also not yet ready to be in person. And we're trying to figure out, how do we do this? The short answer to your question, Connie, is we use the same strategies and approaches online that we use in person. And one of the things that we've taken our mentoring program online for the last 3 years as well. And that's actually a plus for the students because they need to learn how to connect with people via telehealth. And so part of what we teach them is, you know, if I sit back like this and you can't really see my face and you can see my hand, my arms crossed. And if I sit like this, it's the same as if we were in a room together. So a lot of the way we create space for people is we use their names, we look them in the eye, we are very attentive in listening, we recap by name what they've said. Those all translate to being online. Now, having said that, we have some participants who are in, for instance, the late stages of frontotemporal dementia and experience hallucinations. That's tough online because they're already experiencing dislocation and seeing all these little faces coming out of a computer at them. That's not feeling very safe. So there are definitely issues with being online. And it's one of the reasons that we want very much to move forward being hybrid. Always having programs online because we now have people all over the country who come to them, but also seasonally being in person.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. Oh, Roberta, we'll make Roberta the last question, I think, because it's 5:04, and then I'll just have a little closing that I want to say. So go ahead, Roberta, go ahead.
Susan, thank you for this presentation. It's wonderful, and it's really exciting that you're doing this. My question is, and I may have missed this, who are the care partners?
Very interesting question. Some of them, most of them, are what we euphemistically call in this society informal caregivers, i.e. their family members or friends, unpaid. However, some of them are professional aides or companions, and they participate as well. They participate in the mentoring program. They participate in our other programs. And we don't differentiate among, you can be a 5-year-old grandchild and be a care partner. You can be, one of my colleagues in Nevada is herself living with dementia. Her daughter had been caring for her. Her daughter had a brain tumor, and now she's caring for her daughter in year 10 of her dementia.
Wow.
So the answer is all of the above, and sometimes people with dementia caring for others.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. You're remarkable. This program you've created is remarkable. Your explanations of it are beautiful and moving.
Thank
And
you.
we're just enormously appreciative of your taking the time.
It's
Um,